to the Atlantic Council's Central Europe Week, opening in Warsaw. Central Europe Week is a time when the Atlantic Council both celebrates and tries to look forward in the U.S.-Central European relationship in a time of war in Europe and turmoil abroad. Central Europeans in general, Poles in particular, have been co-authors of the achievement of a Europe whole, free, and at peace. And I have to acknowledge the presence here of Minister Janusz Onyszkiewicz, who was one of those Poles who helped bring freedom to Poland. And we are dealing with Vladimir Putin's attempt to restore the Russian Empire through war, through blood. The war in Ukraine is the greatest security challenge to Europe. We need a strong Poland. The United States wants Poland to be a leader in Europe, working with Brussels, with Berlin, with Paris, and with Washington to help deal with our current challenges and chart a way forward. Poland has had an election. It featured a massive, inspiring turnout. 74% of the Polish electorate voted. That was a democratic act, and that election produced a clear result. The presumed incoming government has history through its leaders of a pro-European, pro-transatlantic, pro-Ukrainian position and a track record of resistance to Putin's aggression. I know Americans look forward to working with the incoming Polish government, as we've worked with the outgoing Polish government, I should say. Now, today's event has to do with technology and economics. And that is one of the pillars of a future Europe and a future Central Europe. The countries of Central and Eastern Europe are no longer poor countries. There are poor people in them, but Poland is no longer a poor country. Its growth has been astonishing in one generation. And with that growth comes new opportunity. The Atlantic Council celebrates the past. We look forward to working with Poland and with Central European countries in the future as we deal with Putin's aggression, as we strengthen transatlantic ties, and as we realize the promise of the free world in which the Poles have believed for generations and to which they have contributed so much. Now, some housekeeping things. If you want to ask a question for those people online, please send it to askac.org and select this event to submit your question. And please follow us on Twitter, X, using the hashtag Central Europe Week. Thanks to LOT, the Polish Economic Institute, and the Polish Embassy in Washington, D.C., for their support in setting up this event. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Mark Brzezinski, not only the U.S. ambassador to Poland, but the son of one of my best professors, Zbigniew Brzezinski, who taught me a great deal about international communism, Soviet politics, and the way the United States had to deal with it. And I cannot think of a better person, właściwy człowiek w właściwym miejscu w właściwym czasie. The right man, the right time, the right place. So, Mark, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you to the terrific Atlantic Council for hosting this event. What a time to be in Poland in 2023. The reactive mobilizations that we have seen in the last 2 years, in 2022 and 2023, here in Poland have been amazing. The reactive mobilization in the face of danger to help Ukrainian refugees has cast Poland as a humanitarian superpower, given the millions hosted here, the millions helped here, the millions who came here because, as the sign says, at the Przemyśl railroad station in Przemyśl, Poland, one of the cities closest to the Polish-Ukrainian border, tutaj jesteście bezpieczni. 3 words, tutaj jesteście bezpieczni. Here you are safe. Who in the world does not want to feel safe? And the reactive mobilization of the Polish people was so impressive in terms of helping the Ukrainian refugees. And the civic mobilization, which Dan referred to on October 15th during the national elections here in Poland. The participation, the 74% of the electorate who participated, the record number of women who participated, the record number of young people who participated, who wanted to make their voices heard and who wanted to help set the priorities through their vote was profoundly impressive for the democratic world. And folks, we are approaching a really important anniversary. On March 12th, 2024, so this coming March 12th, will be the 25th anniversary of Poland's formal joining of NATO. It was on March 12th, 1999, that Bronisław Geremek went out to Missouri, to the Truman Library, to take part in the signing of the formal accession. And there is no one in this room better than Minister Onuszkiewicz and Dan Fried to know what that was all about, and what a great strategic bet NATO expansion was. And not everyone agreed with it at the time, and I respect that. But the fact is that in 2023, collective security on NATO's eastern flank, collective security in Poland is working. And in this world of ours that has so much negative news and so much difficult news coming out of it, the case of Poland is a good one, given what I've just reflected on. And that gives us a positive sense of direction. I think that's important at this time. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine has been a call to action for the West. Our collective response has been historic. As always, when the West has been confronted with an enormous challenge, unity is our singular advantage and our greatest strength. European partners have joined the United States in condemning and countering Russia's actions and in providing vital assistance to Ukraine. Our support to Ukraine in its defense against Russia's assault is a demonstration of democratic unity and transatlantic partnership. The Ukrainian people have made good use of that support and performed heroically in defense of their homeland. Now, unable to defeat Ukraine on the battlefield, Russia tries to divert the world's attention. Authoritarians like Putin believe they can wait us out, that we're unable to commit to the long fight. We will show them how profoundly wrong that assumption is. We will show them the West is united and that we will remain so long into the future. In many ways, our collective efforts already have. The West has repeatedly demonstrated its commitment to Ukraine, delivering humanitarian aid, supplying weapons, and levying punishing sanctions designed to degrade Putin's ability to sustain his costly conquest. American resolve has not faltered. As President Biden said, making sure Ukraine succeeds is vital to America's national security. I know my friends and colleagues here in Poland feel exactly the same, that Ukraine's success is existential for Poland's own future. Poland has been an indispensable partner in the effort to support Ukraine, not only in giving refuge to Ukrainians fleeing the war, and providing many with homes, jobs, and a sense of community, but also serving as a critical hub for delivering international assistance. The overwhelming majority of aid, over 80% of the aid, lethal and non-lethal, that reaches Ukraine comes through southern Poland. At critical moments, Poles have reached out to their neighbors in need, forging new links that made this remarkable response possible. And while supporting Ukraine, Poland has bolstered its own security by implementing a defense modernization program at lightning speed. This investment in our shared security, along with the permanent presence of thousands of U.S. troops and U.S. military facilities in Poland, makes us stronger. There's close to 10,000 American soldiers in Poland right now, and that's such an inspiring thing for me to reflect on, because when I first visited Poland in 1990, and I had the chance to meet Minister Onuszkiewicz, that time, Soviet troops were still singing their songs on their morning runs around Krakow and other places around here. Our permanent presence and the deployment of some of the United States' most advanced military equipment here are tangible symbols of the strength of our security partnership with Poland. Poland is crucial in securing NATO's eastern flank. It has been a bulwark for Europe and for NATO. And Poland understands now is the time to show that the alliance is united. Unity is truly our most powerful weapon. President Biden has also said that when dictators don't pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos, death, and destruction. And Russia is paying a price, not only on the battlefield, but also in terms of its strategic interests. It has long been Russia's aim to see the NATO alliance fracture. Ironically, Putin's actions have reminded the world just how essential NATO is to our collective security. Investing in the security of the eastern flank shows Russia that NATO allies are prepared to protect and strengthen the alliance together. That investment allows us to combat Russian disinformation and economic influence, all while building transatlantic resilience. Poland plays a key role in these efforts. Bolstering our shared security has important economic dimensions as well. Poland and the United States continue to seek ways to further diversify Europe's energy sources and to reduce dependence on Russian fossil fuels. As Poland strives to become a hub, I repeat, a hub, a regional hub for civil nuclear technology deployment, the U.S. Department of Energy is doing something very special that it does not often do, and that is investing in a training center in Warsaw to ensure Poland has the workforce in Poland to build and operate a whole fleet of nuclear reactors. And just as Poland is a leader in helping Ukraine repel Russia's full-scale invasion, it is also poised to become a leader in helping Ukraine on its path to economic recovery, ensuring it emerges stronger than ever. And as you well know, President Biden has appointed former Secretary of Commerce Penny Pritzker to be his presidential envoy for recovery of Ukraine. Her work has already begun. She has visited here in Poland, and I am absolutely positive and enthusiastic that the sooner we get underway with building out a plan, the better off we will all be. Rebuilding Ukraine will not just be a Ukrainian problem or a regional problem, it's an international problem, and it'll be important for others to share in and join in that undertaking. The world has grown even more chaotic since February 2022, and we are reminded daily that the threats to our collective security are not just regional but global. And the best way, the only way to face these threats is by working together with friends and allies. So let the commitment Poland has shown be an example to us all of what we can do working together when we support those fighting for their freedom. And in closing, I can tell you that what I have seen in Poland over the last 2 years makes me profoundly optimistic about the possibilities for national renewal in Poland. I think the best is yet to come, and it's amazing to see the reactive mobilizations that we've seen in the last 2 years. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Ambassador Brzezinski. Thank you, Ambassador Daniel Fried. Good afternoon and welcome to our audience here in Warsaw. Good morning, or in whatever time zone you're in, for those of you who are following us online. My name is Aaron Koreva. I'm the director of the Atlantic Council Warsaw office. And once again, I'm glad that you're here to join us for the Warsaw portion and Poland portion of Atlantic Council's Central Europe Week conference. Do follow us on the hashtag Central Europe Week. You can also follow us on X or Twitter, well, X, at Atlantic Council and at AC Europe. We have a special panel for you today, and we are going to discuss how the title of the panel is Europe's Friendly Shores, Central Europe's Role in Europe's Push for Technological Sovereignty. And as the US and China battle for dominance of the semiconductor industry, the European Union has actually put forward some interesting legislation, such as the European Chips Act and the Critical Raw Materials Act, to bolster European competitiveness and resilience in semiconductor technologies and production. And as the European Union aims to shore up this production, shore it up and strengthen its leadership, Central and Eastern European countries, such as Poland, have been able to lure investment into hubs such as Warsaw and Wrocław, using its talent base and conducive infrastructure. And so what we're going to talk about is, so what is the future position of Europe in this global chip race, and how can Central and Eastern European countries play a positive role? And to do that, we have a terrific panel. We have Isabella Albrecht, who is the director of the Cybersecurity Center at AGH University of Science and Technology in Krakow, and the co-founder of CyberSec.
Yes.
We have Mr. Michał Kanownik, who is the president of Digital Poland Association, ZIPSI. That's how we pronounce it? ZIPSI? ZIPSA.
ZIPSA.
ZIPSA, okay. And Dr. Piotr Arak, the director of the Polish Economic Institute.
Hi.
And finally, Kamila Sotomska, government and public policy senior analyst at Google.
Hello.
Welcome, all of you. Let's start with something a little bit general. I guess I will direct the first question to you, Michał. So what is it that makes Central Europe such an interesting destination for tech innovation? What can other European countries sort of learn from Central Eastern Europe, particularly Poland, since we're in Poland? And what challenges are there ahead for the Central Eastern European tech sector, I guess, to be such a general question for kicking us off?
Well, I can say shortly, because we were the best. But seriously, I think that there is few reasons why Poland and general sea region is so nice place for investment, especially in new technologies. First of all, we have very good staff. Young engineers from Poland is really great people, and all companies in the world are running for them to Warsaw, Krakow, or other cities. Of course, it's one hand it's a huge plus for Poland, but on the second hand, it's a huge challenge, because absolutely we need much more young people in new technologies right now in Poland, based new investments, Intel's investment in Wrocław, for example. So for sure we need in Poland over 100,000 young engineers more than nowadays. But for sure, the level of engineers are our huge benefit for next investments. Second reason, I think that we are in the position in the Europe that we still are running our investments inside our country, inside our economy, in digitalization, in digital transformation of our country. So that's why there is a huge market for new products, new services. So it's much easier to put some investments in Poland right now. And of course, we can say that we have quite good regulations around investments. But in this area, for sure, we can do much more, and these regulations could be much better. It's not only Polish regulations, but we have to remember that we're in the part of EU, so we have to be careful and take care about regulation in Poland and in EU. Finally, summarize. First, people, absolutely great young engineers in Poland. Second, huge market, and we have very open for new technologies, for new transformation, Polish small and medium-sized companies, and quite good regulations. Understanding of ICT sector in Polish authorities, Polish companies are for sure on the very high level.
Thank you. Isabel, I saw you raised your hand, so maybe same question to you, or?
Yes, I would like to add a few probably other additional thoughts to very accurate ones. So I would add also that Polish universities are very entrepreneurial, and they are very eager and open to collaborate with companies and industry in terms of building innovative solutions. So this is also like additional factor for Poland to be considered as an attractive investment location. And speaking about location, it is also a location and great connectivity. I mean, the transportation inside Poland, but also with crucial business centers around the world are also like additional factors. We mentioned also the digital transformation strategy or this will to become even more digitized, and it is a very important policy factor. But Mr. Ambassador also said that we are going through the modernization of our defenses. And again, this is another policy, I would say, driver for having some interesting investments here, also in a form of technology transfer, which is correlated with different defense deals, let's put it this way. We are buying a lot of equipment, but at the same time, we are very open to be innovative also in respect of defense technologies. We said that we are a superpower in terms of humanitarian aid, but I would also add that our goal should be to become a superpower in terms of defense tech, because in this particular region we really need those innovations, and with the growth opportunities which Mr. Ambassador said, there also comes some responsibilities, and I would add that our responsibility is also to use, let's say, our growth and potential to build innovative defense solutions.
So synergy then between various different. That's very interesting, because often when I go around in Europe and I say that I'm from the United States, you hear, well, universities in the US, there's this clear link, or what do you call it? Not pipeline is the wrong word, but there's this clear linkage between the university and then alumni who come from that university, and then they work together. And in Europe is a little bit less so. But if we're seeing that in the esteemed universities in Krakow, which of course date back to the Middle Ages, then that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. Camilla, then maybe slightly different question, but from where you sit in the Central Eastern European country, I guess quickly, what's your reaction to the legislation coming from the European Union in terms of tech sovereignty, and particularly, of course, we have in the light of challenges from or the threats from Russia and China.
Okay, thanks so much, and thank you very much for having me. It's really an honor to be here, and it's a pleasure to discuss with you. So before I jump into this question, I would just like to add one more thing about the CE being, because really, like, we have touched upon so many different advantages that Central and Eastern Europe offers for investment in digital. And I couldn't be prouder and happier to see that more and more companies are following into Google's footsteps and locating their investments in Poland. My predecessors have spoken in great detail and very rightly about advantages of skilled labor workforce of the universities, but also coming back to what Mr. Ambassador has said, I think what we're seeing now in CE is not only skilled workforce entrepreneurialism, even though it's super important, but also we are seeing really a profound change in the region as a whole. With Central and Eastern Europe, it is actually becoming a sustained, and it's being shown in recent European Commission data, a sustained engine of European growth, of European economic growth. And this has important implications in a way that Central and Eastern European countries are starting to create their policy and are starting to take a more assertive way of leadership, which is also, of course, related to increasing geopolitical tensions and changing geopolitical situation, including threats from Russia and, to a lesser extent, threats from China. So what we're seeing now is really this kind of coming of age of Central and Eastern European countries in the EU, with also Poland going to, which will celebrate its 20 years in the EU just next year. So this brings me back to the point on regulation. I think what is definitely a threat to Central and Eastern Europe and its capabilities will be an overly big amount of red tape, administrative and legislative barriers that are infringing upon this entrepreneurial spirit that we have mentioned here. So what we have seen is that CE countries have maintained their growth rate. Of course, there is a difference depending on the starting level. So we were naturally more likely to have a higher growth rate, but nevertheless, we are maintaining even post-pandemic, which is actually a nice comparison with the EU, a definitely steeper growth than than the rest of Europe. So what we can think of for the digital regulation is that we can really be encouraging to Central and Eastern European countries to create their own digital agenda, to look into the strengths, to look into their own local potential, and to come up with proposals, not only to negotiate ideas that are coming from other European countries, but really to think about how they can support their digital ecosystem, how they can develop their markets. And maybe just one last thing on that. When we say how we can incentivize digital markets, we should not be thinking about regulation as a first tool, because regulation is not the first and should not be the first tool to incentivize economy.
Well, thanks for pointing that out. This is something that we Americans sometimes, well, when we have our discussions with the European Union, that always gets raised. But you made a very good point as well, as what Ambassador Fried said, that these are not poor countries that need to follow in some other footsteps. These countries are, in many ways, the Central Eastern European countries are ahead of many Western European countries. That's a fact. Piotr, over to you. I mean, I'm a bit of a layman when it comes to these things. But I guess, I'll just ask you straight on, so how does this EU legislation, the CHIPS Act and the Critical Raw Materials Act, how exactly is it intended to boost European competitiveness and resilience in the semiconductor industry? And if I may, since you're Polish Economic Institute, I guess I'll fire this question as well. So we have this big assembly plant from Intel that's coming in, this investment. How do you think this is going to boost the economy in this field in Poland?
Okay, so thank you.
Two very easy questions, right?
Yeah, very easy. So just writing them down, not to forget anything. So first off, I just wanted to thank and just point out one thing, because I pretty much enjoyed what Ambassador Brzezinski and Daniel Fried said, is that do remember, we've had almost entirely through the process, through the years since 1709, with a short break in the 20s, up until 1992, the presence of Russian forces on Polish land. We're quite experienced with the Russian soldier and what it can do to a nation, with a society. And I think that tells a lot when we are scared of something or when we're not scared of something, depending on given the situation with Russia, with Ukraine, and the future of Ukraine within the European Union. Because and this today and probably the European Councils in December is going to be historic, because we're going to be starting negotiations with Ukraine to become a member of the European Union, as well as with Moldova. So this is a big day today in Europe, and we do need to remember that Poland has a role to play, and it played a role in making this happen today. So that's the first quite important remark on geopolitics. The second one on the Intel's investment. I think I don't have to make anybody know how does new modern manufacturing work like, or how software is being created, or how services are being created. It does not mean the same things that it meant 30 years ago. So it's not the number of jobs that makes the headlines. It's not the number of the value added that could be created with a specific manufacturing plant, because there's not going to be so many job places being created. The quality of the jobs is going to be better. So we're going to have more engineers, more qualified human capital needed for those places. But it doesn't mean we're going to be creating, I don't know, 20,000 new jobs specifically connected with a manufacturing plant like that. This is where the industry is going, specifically in a process of friendshoring or reshoring, where you're going to have more processes of manufacturing, creation of products and goods available to the European consumer done within the European Union. It doesn't mean that we're going to have the same amount of jobs. It does mean that we're going to be able to create the same amount of value. So more value from an employee employed in the same manufacturing plant than in the previous years. And this is the advancement, this is the process of growth that we see in infrastructure. So, of course, an investment like this puts the foot of Poland as an economy in the new tech sector, as we are with the investments coming from Google, from other software companies who have R&D centers, have a lot of investment conducted in the non-material kind of sphere. We don't create an actual microchip, but we create the value that is being then sold by those companies across the globe. And since I think 2016 or 2017, we're exporting more services as Poland than goods across the world. So it's not just the things that we produce as furniture or car parts or, I don't know, television sets or anything else that you're going to have here in the room. It also means the services that are being provided to the companies operating in the European Union. And probably, I guess a lot of people do forget about that, because I pretty much enjoyed your answer, but the one thing that we have that makes a lot of these companies invest in Poland is we're the member of the European single market. It's not the access to 38 million consumers in Poland or the big human capital base. It's the access to more than 400. It's the access to the European market. It's the element of the ecosystem that we're part of. It's the 67% to GDP of exports that we reached last year in 2022 is still growing. Each year, we are now 1.4% of global exports. 1% GDP, 1.4% of global exports. We're a small yet open economy. We thrive on globalization. Currently, we can thrive on the process of decreasing the dependencies that we're going to have from Southeast Asia, of the new tech coming in because of the base of human capital in Central and Eastern Europe, and thanks to politicians like Lukashenko, who's destroying their country and making a lot of their his country and making a lot of his citizens find better places to live, specifically in Poland. And that human capital, even the engineers of Belarus are fueling the growth pace of this country, as before the tragic situations in Ukraine also fueled the growth pace of this country, because we saw them. They were employed. Record numbers according to the IMF. More than 70% of the refugees employed straight on. Never happened before in all research in economic crises and humanitarian crises that we saw before. So this is also why we have such staggering numbers in terms of the growth and the powerhouse, economic powerhouse that we can be truly proud of.
Thank you, Piotr. So basically, Poland should not leave the European Union. That's a good message from that one. Michał, you raised your hand, so go ahead.
Two short remarks, because you mentioned about regulations. Piotr said about digital single market in EU, but in my opinion, we have to be very clearly said that general. Of course, it's a huge benefit that we are the member of the digital single market. But on the other hand, absolutely, we have to say that regulations in EU, especially in digital area, are not good. And for sure, it's not a benefit for new investments, the way of thinking about digital regulations in Brussels. That's for sure. There's a lot of ideas which are risky. I will be diplomatic right now in Brussels, and we have to understand that we have to, as a CE region, have one common voice and strictly say what is the most important for this region, this part of Europe, to build here some digital powerhouse for the next years, and we have huge opportunity for this situation. We have a great investment from Google, Amazon, Intel, and many others, and we have to use this opportunity right now, right here. We have to remember that right now in Europe, we have to answer one general question: what is more important for European companies? More spending on lawyers, compliance, reading new regulations, or spending money on innovation, new investments for new digital products, services, etc. And this answer is crucial for future of Europe and our part of this continent. And we have to be ready for this answer. If CE region, we have a lot of national strategies for AI, cloud, data, etc. We have to try to build a common strategy for the region to coordinate these kind of strategies, to build one strong common understanding of digital transformation for this part of Europe. Not only based on European regulations, but maybe sometimes we have to be a very strong voice in Brussels and say, no, this is stupid. And this is very risky for European companies in this way. We can say about Data Act, for example. It was absolutely very risky project, and in my opinion, it's very risky for future for European companies, because we have to remember that even biggest European companies are using technologies from whole world. We are not an island as a Europe, and it's impossible to build a future of Europe based only on European companies, European technology, etc. It's a global market, and we have to remember and build three main things. First, competitiveness, and it's impossible to build competitiveness only based on European companies. Second thing, trust, and some of European regulations is not so clear in this area. And third thing, we have to find two sources. First, for digital skills and young people, and second, for financing new investments in new products, new services here in Europe.
Thank you. I guess, well, of course, I mean, we talked about EU, of course, we start talking about regulations, but there are others, there are other things. I guess, first Isabella, then Camilla. I wanted to ask on the same topic then, Isabella. So, of course, I mean, in order to lead in the digital economy effectively, you need this trust between public policy and private sectors, right? So I guess I just wanted to hear your thoughts. So what can be done then to increase this trust? Because it feels like we're talking about this over and over and over again, and the trust is still not really there. So I guess what's the problem there, and what can we do about it?
I would say that more projects which we should done together, involvement of private companies also to the policy making process to the larger extent, and building the framework to exchange opinions and be able to build together strategies, basically. But I think that the very concrete projects can combine our approaches and can build trust, that's for sure. I would like to, if I may, maybe come back also to what was said about European Union, and I do agree that we cannot overregulate, and also that we need to build a common understanding of some very basic concepts, like, for example, the technological sovereignty, because I think that Michał was also referring to that. It is not autarky, it is not self-sufficient policy. It should be based also on trusted relations with companies from outside Europe, from like-minded countries. They can have indeed an important added value to different EU policies. We discussed the semiconductor sector and building resilience in this particular supply chain, and the investments of American companies actually prove that they can boost this resilience that can be integrated into the CHIPS Act, in fact. So we can think about this way about the technological sovereignty. There are three factors which constitute this concept, which is the supply chain security. It is also development of the policy for innovative industrial base. And the third one is actually the application of those technologies to critical sectors. And for sure, in this concept, we cannot think about collaboration only within the European Union. It is impossible. We need to be open to other partners in terms of critical raw materials. For example, European Union is approaching to Australia, to Ukraine as well, or other countries from Southern America. And it also proved that we cannot think about sovereignty as this very close concept.
Thank you. Yeah, good, excellent point. I mean, I think I read somewhere that in a car today, the number of critical materials that are included in that car is something like, I mean, this was a European article, so something like 5 kilos, I don't know. But in a battery-driven car, we're going up to 25 kilos almost.
Yeah. 5 or 6 times much.
Yeah. Oh. So there you have it. So I mean, obviously the critical raw materials. Camilla, you raised your hand before. I guess I'll give it to you, but I also I guess I wanted to ask one question then. I mean, in terms of. Shall we say? Okay, I mean, I sort of asked you this before, but kind of again, like since we are in Warsaw and in Poland, so what role can Poland play to help bridge this trust gap, I guess?
Okay, thank you so much. So also, before I jump into this question, just to briefly touch on the topic of technological sovereignty, I think what is really important also is to kind of recognize that no one wants Europe to be dependent, and no one wants European Union to kind of maintain some kind of tech dependency, but just not to close artificially to like-minded partners. I think that this is super important, that in times of rising geopolitical instabilities, we are not looking for, we really turn to our allies and we build those bridges, we build this trust that is rooted in firm transatlantic relationship, which is, and I think this is also, coming back to your question, how Poland can bridge this trust gap. Recent events of recent months, a year already and a bit, have proven that strong transatlantic ties are the bedrock of Europe's security. So I cannot imagine how can we, even by Polish policy, by how we're supporting Ukraine, by how we're building this we're working in this close cooperation with the US, but still, well, now with the change in government and possible de-escalation of relations with Brussels, how we're going to be, we still are, and we're going to work as a strong, big and constructive member of the EU. So that is definitely one important point. And another thing that is truly important, since we touched on regulation, and obviously there are so many examples of regulation that could have gone better, to put it diplomatically. But nevertheless, regulation plays an important role. And here we also have many examples in digital markets where regulation is important, because, for instance, we have regulations that are replacing older generation of directives. And for instance, we had the e-commerce directive that was in part replaced by DSA, and DSA, Digital Services Act, as a regulation, it's good, because it's a maximum harmonization that will create more coherence in the EU. So I don't want to be also kind of blatantly criticizing all regulation, but really, like, we should push the needle in the direction of smart regulation, and something for the next Commission mandate and for the presidencies to come, something to think about. We have produced a lot of legislation in this over this past mandate. Michał has named Data Act or Digital Services Act. I think I have counted regulations in the digital sphere, ones that were created since 2018, and I have counted and it was not an extensive list, like 15. And it's a lot. It's really a lot. So what is really important for us in the next year, 2, 3, to focus on cohesion, on legal certainty, on legal clarity, to find, to deconflict those regulations, because we will have a lot of conflicts. Just to give you one example, platform to business regulation came into force in 2018. Then we had already Digital Markets Act proposed in 2020. This is all regulating relations between platforms and businesses. Many of these relations will be still regulated by Data Act, Data Governance Act, Artificial Intelligence Act. So a lot of the conflicting work, something to focus on for the next mandate.
Good, thank you. I guess, again, being a layman in the, as far as chips industry is concerned, I just want to go back to you, Michał. I just thought of something that when I hear of semiconductors, I think of Taiwan, right? And so I guess that if Poland, raises its profile in the semiconductor industry, does that mean that it's going to increase its diplomatic relationships with Taiwan and kind of be more plugged into this whole global chain of semiconductors? And what would that mean for, obviously for Taiwan, Central Europe relations, Poland's involvement in the far Asian affairs and so on?
I think that's for sure economical relations between Poland, our region, and Taiwan for sure must be growing based on our experiences on new technologies, especially if we are talking about chips. And I think that based on these economical relations between Taiwan and Poland, or Sea region, we can say we can create some new projects, new products, new investments around our region, because Intel's investment is absolutely crucial right now. It's based in Germany and Wrocław right now, but it's only one investment in Europe. Europe needs much more investments in chips sector than only this one investment of Intel. So a cooperation with Taiwan is absolutely must-have for Europe. And I think that Poland could be some kind of leader in building this cooperation between Europe and Taiwan. We have very good experiences around new investments in the digital area. And I hope that Poland will be some kind of door for Taiwan technology in chips for Europe. Many years ago, Poland was a door or window for different companies from Asia on the European market. And I'm sure that it was a good example how to build these relations. And we have to use these experiences and build next step, next level of this cooperation, and build maybe common projects in this area between Poland, between Europe and Taiwan, based on CHIPS Act, which is, of course, we need it. And it's very good that we have these regulations, but it's only regulation. Based on this regulation, we need activities, we need investments, we need money, and companies which will be ready to invest in Europe. The best situation if this investment could be a common investment, Europe and, for example, Taiwan. And I hope that next few years it will be a reality that we will have a common projects together with Taiwan technology.
Good, thank you. I hope so as well. In a minute, we're going to open it up to the audience for questions. For those of you following us online, you can go to askac.org and ask a question. But before I do that, I guess like one last, fire to all of you. While reading about this, thinking about this, I came across an interesting article that sort of talked about, okay, well, regulation initiatives on the EU level, that's all good and all that, but remember the story of the British car industry, how there was this push from above to support the car industry. And it's like, come to think about it, like who talks about British-made cars today? I mean, on a large scale. So I mean, obviously there's there are a few nice ones. I know if you've ridden a Jaguar before, it's a very interesting car. You switch gears with this disc here on the side. Anyway, I guess like to all of you or whoever would like to grab this one, like so how do we make sure that this initiative of regulation from the European Union that doesn't sort of end up in being like, here we go creating something like between governments that kind of misses out what it is that the private sector actually needs. We touched on that a little bit before, but I guess like from that, how do we avoid that trap? If anyone wants to grab that one,
I can start.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's one U.S. president that said a lot of great phrases. I don't totally agree with all of his policies, but
Only
he said, this one is very specific, Ronald Reagan. So he said that if it moves, the government view of economics is if it moves, tax it, if it keeps moving, regulate it, and if it stops moving, subsidize it. And I guess in the US, you're at the first phase, we're at the second phase, and then when the businesses, e-businesses and new tech businesses in Europe die, we're going to subsidize them. And this is the kind of approach that in many failed business instances we see in the European Union because we're behind. And we don't want to be behind as Europe. We were the beacon of hope during the Cold War. Western Europe was advancing economically very fast. The 90s created tremendous growth pace to some of the economies which were facing slowdowns, as Germany, France. But then it all ended with the financial crisis. And currently, the GDP per capita comparing to the US is lower than it used to be 15 years ago. Companies are smaller. At the 500 largest corporations in the world, you're not going to see that many European corporations anymore. And when the French specifically talk about sovereignty, they also mean sovereignty from the US in the European Union. So it's not, when I'm talking about sovereignty, I mean Russia, sometimes China. When the French mean, they mean the US. They don't even mean Russia or China in that sense. So that's why the sovereignty of the European Union has a lot of different meanings across the European bloc, because the countries differ in their approach to international policy, their own interest, the demand for their products, which are, for example, in China, or the technology that they produce. And what I want to say is that you can have both a positive and a negative approach to whatever is happening in the European Union and international trade. On the positive side, we're increasing security, we're decreasing dependencies. We want to be sovereign, we want to be ready in a situation where we're going to, when there's a war between Taiwan and China, and we're going to have to impose sanctions on the Chinese economy, which is going to have a tremendous effect on us all. But we're going to go through it. That's one positive kind of approach. The second one was basically we're taking back everything that we wrote in the 90s and the 2000s in all the French press on protectionism, decreasing investment opportunities to foreign to European Union countries, and we're going to put that in all regulations and all non-tariff measures that are available to that cannot be sued in the WTO, and implement them. Just because we can, because this is the time in history where you can impose a lot of the policies that are protectionistic and can decrease the other countries' opportunities to prosper in the European Union. Probably the truth is somewhere in the middle. That a lot of these ideas and a lot of measures are sometimes being pushed currently because we see security as an important thing. But then we do mean different things when we mean security. But then we don't get into specifics of some directives that are being implemented, which are changing the way that we're going to be conducting business in Europe, or not conducting business because it's going to be just not worthwhile anymore because of the over-regulation. And I was a part of a panel discussion on creating an AI authority as the GDPR, for example, in the European Union, which is floating around on some of the EU capitals, and then basically the biggest question is which capital is going to get the office of some of the smaller member states. So because they don't have a big EU agency, so they want to have an EI agency because it sounds cool. But then what does that actually mean to all the businesses that are in the field? Are we actually going to decrease the opportunity of having any AI businesses operating in Europe? Because we're going to, first thing we're going to think is how to create an office that is going to make the business unoperational. So we've been through that. It ended in the beginning of 90s in Poland, and I'm happy not to go for a pace of over-regulation and thinking that the state has all the answers. Sometimes it does have the answers, and I don't think in terms of booming businesses that it's going to have all the answers.
Thanks, Piotr. I mean, since you mentioned artificial intelligence, then I will have to go over to Isabella again and ask, so what do we do? I mean, a lot of stories about artificial intelligence, you know, flowing around, a lot of people with a lot of opinions. Is it safe? Is it scary? What is it? So, I mean, with the advancement of these critical emerging technologies, like what sort of measures can business in this region do to I mean, ensure that these the artificial intelligence is developed safely and securely?
Well, this is an issue also to collaborate between business and universities, for example. We need to experiment together. We need to build projects together. We need to anticipate the threats which are ahead of us. We need to address some cybersecurity risks related to artificial intelligence solutions, but also ethical risks. And here, for example, I do agree with Michał that regulations to some extent can affect the competitiveness, but also they can increase the level of understanding of threats which are ahead of us, and basically this ethical approach to new technologies is also important, also to implement the security dimension into this technology, which is absolutely fundamental. And again, we need to balance between not regulate this development and over-regulate it and put us in the position which is not very, very competitive against, for example, China and other potential adversaries.
Thanks. Camilla, over to you then. I mean, on the same topic, to what extent, I guess, do you believe that artificial intelligence can be transformative in terms of sort of growth, prosperity, or for the region?
At Google, we believe in really great transformative power of AI. We also believe that artificial intelligence is neither good or bad, just like technology is. It depends on the use that you put into it. And actually, regarding regulation here, I will agree with Isabella. Regulation has a really important role that it plays in making sure that artificial intelligence will be deployed safely. So as Google CEO Sundar Pichai said, artificial intelligence is too important not to be regulated and too important to be regulated poorly. So of course we have Artificial Intelligence Act that is now being negotiated. We're nearing towards the end of trilogues at the EU level, but maybe I will jump into some more practical ideas on how can you make sure that artificial intelligence is actually safe. So something that is very important to keep in mind is fairness and privacy. So how in the way that we design our AI applications at Google, we really make sure that there is privacy by design, how it's called, that user is in charge, informed, and always in control of its data. And in terms of fairness, the key principle that I would mention here would definitely be conducting adversarial training. Google is also open sourcing many applications that are helping programmers around the world make sure that their AI applications are fair and are not reproducing bias. One of those tools is called a what-if tool. It allows programmers and engineers to check how their applications would work for different groups of users. So,
Thank you.
To finish.
I was this close on saying whether if I find artificial intelligence scary or not scary. I saw somewhere that there's a technology to make suits that they don't actually get stained because it goes off them. But that's not artificial intelligence, nanotechnology. So that tells you how much I know. But I was kind of excited about that one. But anyway, we do have a question from the audience, from our international audience. And since we sort of talked about France and we're in Poland after all, this question is. Well, you see where I'm going with this. The question is as follows. So we were talking about the internal market a little earlier and the CHIPS Act, and apparently Germany is likely to be poised to receive the bulk of these EU subsidies. So how might that impact the internal competitiveness of the European Union, and what about Poland? Such a nice little, from France to Germany. I don't know, does anyone want to feel like grabbing that one, or should I?
Yeah, I've been voicing this for a long period of time. So I think that in the last years, what we saw from the data from the European Commission, the illicit usage of state aid was basically two capitals. 75% of the state aid that you could actually say that it shouldn't be state aid given to companies was done in Germany and France, in all of the European Union. So this is a distortion to the single market. the scale of that is tremendous because we're talking about billions of euros that are being poured in some of the businesses. And I'm not talking about R&D tax breaks, IP boxes, which you have a 5% corporate income tax, for example. That's more or less whatever any country can do and provide to the businesses that are operating. This is the level playing field that we do accept to have, because this is you can do that. But then if you provide assistance, you incur additional debt, or your development institutions, as in case of Germany, incurs additional debt. And then you don't allow other member states to pursue these specific goals because of prudent fiscal policies that they have in other countries, although they have to spend 4% GDP on military in order to stay secure, and you don't do that, then you have a debate on these issues. And I don't believe that the loosening of the state assistance measures that we are seeing right now in the propositions coming from the European Commission for a longer period of time is going to be benefiting the members of the European Union. So Poland, together with Netherlands, the Scandinavian countries, Sweden is probably going to have a very different stance on these issues, because we're a champion of competitiveness, not of state assistance and state-controlled economy. And this is somewhere where you're going to lead with over-subsidizing some of the sectors and choosing some champions which are still going to be needing of subsidies for a longer period of time because they're not going to be competitive.
Thank you. At this time, I think we'll open up to the audience in the room. We've got a lot of smart people in here. So if you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand and identify yourself and tell us which organization you're from. Yes. Well, a man who needs no further introduction. Janusz Oniszkiewicz, please. Is there a microphone? I think there should be a microphone. Yes. It's coming. It's coming. Yes. Yes, so that our international audience can hear you. There is a microphone. Yeah, it's coming.
Well, my question relates to the problem of security. And the question is this. Everybody knows that rare earth elements are very critical for production of all sorts of high technology elements. What should we do to sort of avoid the situation in which China dominates so much the market? China, as far as I know, is somehow more or less producing 94% of these materials. So what can we do to secure, the supply in this sort of very monopolistic situation? Thank you.
Who wants to grab that question, Isabella?
Yeah, I think that I relate to that a little bit earlier, and I think that diversification is the key. We need to understand where the resources are located. So we know European Union, for example, identified the potential in South American countries, in Australia, in Ukraine, and we need to enhance investment in those regions. Also, I know that European Union is trying to boost the workforce development, which will be needed to extract the largest amount of those materials. So we need to basically declare that we would like to buy some portions of that for sure. We need to also identify other elements of the supply chain in terms of raw materials and different technologies which are needed to oczyścić.
Purify.
Yes, them, and to be able to use those materials for the industrial needs, and this potential is also present here in Europe. For example, I know one at least technology which has been developed for a couple of years here in Warsaw at the Technological University. So basically, we need to understand our potential. We need to understand the potential of our partners, like-minded countries, and trying to set up the framework which will allow us to be more diversified in terms of sources. I mean, there was the same problem with Russian gas here in Europe, and we were able to build a diversified approach and diversification, and we are now, to some extent, at least in Poland, independent. So it takes probably a very strategic approach, but then we need to build a roadmap to achieve this goal, but is of course feasible in the very long term, I guess, in this particular case. But you need to start with something at some point. So the moment has arrived, I would say.
Can I add two sentences?
We're approaching the end. I know Piotr has your hand and Michał has your hand, so quickly, please, and then we'll
2 sentences only quickly, because Isa said about example of Russian gas. I think that's a very good example how to build this new opportunity for Europe. So build relations between Europe and other regions of the world, United States, Japan, Korea, Africa, Southern America, to build another opportunity than only China. It's a huge investment. We need time, but for sure, we as a Europe must invest in this kind of relations. And second thing, we have to find money for investment in Europe. So maybe a good idea could be if we have in military investments, we need to spend as a NATO member 4%, 2%, 5% of our GDP on military investments. Let's create a special percentage of GDP in Europe, which we have to spend on digital investment. And that's why maybe we will in the future can be more sovereignty.
Thank you.
Just two points. One is think of scrap as a critical raw material. We don't still do that in the European Union. So when you're producing a lot of electric vehicles that are available to the consumer, you're using a lot of materials, you can reuse that. It's being reused, but think of additional scrap and recycling within the European Union, and thinking of this as a critical element to the value chain creation. We still don't have specific legislation and capacity in business to do that. The second one is diversifying your autocrats, because it's not China that is mining all the raw materials. It's a lot of autocratic governments across the bloc that are doing that. What China is specifically doing is re-exporting the purified material. And this is the 80 to 90% numbers that we're seeing because we get that from China. We need a trade agreement with India in order to have additional partners that can do the same stuff with different partners across the globe that are going to be available instead of China.
Thank you, Piotr. I will use we're bumping up to the very end of this event, but I will use my moderator's prerogative and say, over here at the Atlantic Council, we're very big fans of the 3 Cs initiative. And I guess I want to ask whoever wants to grab this question, there is a digital pillar of the 3 Cs initiative. We're sitting here, we're talking about the digital issues. It would be wrong of me not to mention it. So how can this digital pillar play a role in resilience and competitiveness in this particular industry that we're talking about?
It's more and more important. Together with Polish Institute, we prepared a special report about ICT sector in 3 Cs region. I think that is a good example what is the role of this digital pillar in Free Seas region for the future. I think that every year share of exports of ICT goods in CEE region is growing. Share of GDP in based on ICT technologies in CEE is growing every year. So for sure, and I'm sure that in the Free Seas region there is understanding that digitalization, which is a pillar for Free Seas initiative, is crucial for next years. And I'm sure that every next summit of Free Seas initiative next year in Vilnius will be evidence that digital pillar is absolutely base for future of this region. And based on our experiences in Poland and in other countries in the region, I'm sure that after a few years in Free Seas region, we will have a real digital powerhouse.
Thank you. That was great note to end on. Thank you so much to our panel, Isabella, Michał, Piotr, and Camilla. Thank you to our audience. Thank you for you joining us digitally. We have one more very important part of our program. At this time, I would like to welcome our partner and our good friend, Beata Daszyńska-Muzyczka, to the stage. Her Excellency Beata Daszyńska-Muzyczka is, of course, the president of the management board of the Polish Development Bank, BGK, and also a special representative and ambassador of the President of the Polish Republic to the Three Seas Initiative. Beata, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I was listening and this interesting panel, and I wondering what we can develop faster, the legal competences or tech competences, to be honest. So, ladies and gentlemen, and dear panelists, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to summarize this very interesting discussion about our region. And the potential and the challenges that to reach the tech sovereignty. Without any doubts, today digital transformation, innovation, and new technologies are key to economic growth across Europe. There's a huge potential in the CEE region. In fact, the ICT sector is developing here most dynamically. It currently provides total 1.64 million jobs and is estimated to be worth close to 5% of the regional's total GDP. This is a line of the Economic Institute and the CE Digital Coalition report said. It is very important to develop trans-European energy, digital and transport networks along the North-South axis, especially in order to help the Three Seas region to strengthen the European Union single market. This promotes industry and development, increases cohesion and stimulates economic growth. The global trends proves that the ICT sector is becoming more significant in our region. There is a constantly growing awareness about the Three Seas digital pillars is driving economic growth in Central and Eastern Europe. To make full use of this vast economic potential, we need to close regional cooperation. We have to have the close regional cooperation and more digital projects involving Three Seas countries. Significant investment in digital infrastructure are needed as far as 160 billion euro up to 2030, when talking about only the telecommunications sector. This should be followed by programs improving digital skills and educating specialists in IT and modern technologies. The power of human capital cannot be overestimated. The region will attract further investment in production as a result of the relocation and shortening the production chains. This is already happening as more global companies are opening facilities in Poland and other countries in the region. The COVID crisis and the outbreak of war in Ukraine have disturbed global supply chains. CE countries can benefit from this. We have become attractive nearshoring destinations. Shortening the supply chains and providing production capability of high-end technologies is the must to give Europe a competitive advantage on the global market and decrease dependencies on the third parties. We have a great social capital in the form of young and high educated people, the population being fluent in English and having unique skills, especially in the IT industry. Therefore, investment from all over the world are welcome in the CEE region. The value of the foreign direct investment in Poland grew by 23% in 2022 to 32 billion euro. Strategic investment in digital infrastructure are also realized by the 3Cs Initiative Investment Fund. We invested in the Green Energy Data Center, the largest and the most energy-efficient data center in the region. It is open in Estonia. It will contribute to the development of the Baltics, e-commerce and digital society. To the ordinary citizen, this means a smaller ecological footprint of data and even better access to the e-services. In addition, the data center will multiply the data hosting export potential for the region. Of the region. Having the huge talent pool in the IT field, high-quality digital infrastructure, and vibrant startups ecosystems, the 3Cs countries have a potential to become Europe's Silicon Valley. We should not forget about the very important aspects of the European market's global cooperation with the, as was mentioned many times, US, South Korea, or Japan. It allows us to attract the new investment to our continent, develop local startups, and promote innovation. This is also a way to increase our region's significance and make a push toward tech sovereignty. So thank you very much, and I think this discussion will be more about the new technologies, new materials technologies, instead of only regulations. They are very important as well, but we have to develop our technologies first. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Beata. That was a great way to end it. I always say that, as an American, I'm half Polish, full disclosure, but as an American, when I talk to ordinary people, often associate the European Union with, here you can go and see a real chateau and eat real Parmesan cheese, which you can do in the US, by the way, so it doesn't make sense. But anyway, they don't really associate it with tech innovation, semiconductors, and new technologies. But it's to us to change that. We definitely can do it. Thank you so much again for listening to our panel and our speakers. Thank you for joining us online. You can follow the rest of the conference at #CentralEuropeWeek, and you can follow us on X or Twitter at Atlantic Council or at AC Europe. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.